This is Jennifer Rash with Tab Media with a special report from Judson College in Marion, Alabama. With us to share some good news this morning and help us understand the full story is Judson President Dr. Mark Tu. Dr. Tu, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, so let's start with the good news. We had a goal. Tell us about the goal and tell us what you now can say.
Absolutely. We appreciate the work of TAB in helping us get the word out to our Baptist constituents across the state and to let them know while we were in a financially challenging times due to a number of issues, we were in fact reaching out to those who can assist us. And so our trustees felt it prudent to determine our immediate cash needs for this upcoming spring semester and set goals of raising $500,000 cash in December and $1 million pledge for cash or commitments to give an additional $1 million during the spring semester. And as of the 26th of this month, as of Saturday after Christmas, we are at $519,735 in cash gifts. So we've passed our first hurdle of our $500,000 giving, and we have reached $543,395 in commitments to give as well. There are many others who have indicated that they will give to the college, but weren't able to give us predict a specific amount. We certainly understand that and are delighted with the response, the faithful response that we have received so far.
Well, that's fantastic. I know that you were excited to not be waiting down to the moment, midnight on December 31st to get that in. Explain a little bit more though. You said the pledges of $543,395, I believe, and that is toward the $1 million goal you have, which was the second goal, correct?
Yes, it is. Because we reached our first immediate goal so quickly, we do anticipate that there will be continued cash gifts coming in this week between now and the 31st. That's always the case in year-end giving anyway. We have the ability with IRS regulations to receive postmarked envelopes up until whenever they're postmarked for the 31st. And so there's always continued giving to charitable organizations through the very end of the tax year. And so we anticipate today and through Thursday to continue to receive gifts. What we have agreed that we will do with these gifts is just move them in essence to the pledge side of this equation. As we have reached the $500,000 in initial cash giving, continued giving this week will be added to what we will also need during the January through May cycle for the spring semester.
Okay. Well, I know some people have been reading and following the story, but just to recap for us, help us understand what the purpose of the $500,000 and then the $1 million. Help us understand how all that works.
Thank you very much. It is a complicated in many ways and very simple in others. So let me start with the simple. It's very easy to understand the struggle of small institutions from the parameters of the 2008 stock market crash and economic recession through this last year, this pandemic of 2020. These have been extraordinarily challenging times. In many cases, able to send their students to a college after 2008. And in many ways, parents weren't willing to send their students to college in 2020. It's been a bizarre turn. And so just the general struggles of small institutions were, if you will, increased by those factors in this process. And so we had reached a point in this fall semester where we realized we were at a perilous financial position. Our challenges were significant, and the trustees of the college, approved by the board, approved by the state convention, felt strongly that we needed to do everything we could to make sure we honored our commitments and were engaged in those things that brought glory to God, that we did everything decently in order, even if that meant we had to close the institution. We wanted to do that with dignity and with pride so that no one would besmirch the Baptist name or the cause of Christ through Christian higher education. And so it became obvious that they wanted to, what our trustees did was go to a bottom line, if you will. Here are our liquidity needs. Here are our cash needs to be able to operate with solvency during the spring semester. And so that's where those two numbers came from, is that raising those amounts of money, a total of 1.5 million in between 1st of December and the end of May, were the necessary cash requirements to meet our obligations. And so that's where the two numbers come from in this process.
Well, help us understand what operating looks like at Judson: staff, faculty, student count, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. We have approximately $9 million budget at the college. Our academic program is the largest piece of that, followed by, and by that I mean not just the faculty, but also the support that is given to faculty to accomplish their extraordinary tasks. We frequently say there's nothing more important than what happens at the front of the classroom. And we seek to spend our money in that regard. Followed immediately after that is the care and operation of an aging campus. Those of you who have been to Judson know that it is a beautiful place. It is a very classic campus, but it is an old campus. And so there are significant deferred maintenance issues that are just common to historic buildings. And so those two pieces alone take up a large portion of our operating expenses. And then the other personnel, we have a total of 76 employees, faculty and non-faculty employees, who work here, live here in Marion. Some do commute from Selma and Birmingham, Tuscaloosa. But, those are the big pieces of our expense budget, of our operating budget.
All right. And so how many students again?
We started this past year with 177 students. That was the number we started in the fall of 19. We have been in an enrollment decline for a number of years. And in that process, exacerbates the financial condition that we have. And so as we proceed, we know that enrollment growth is a must for us. And Jennifer, that's been one of the huge challenges in the past 2 years. The fall of 19, we didn't have normal recruitment from March through August because of COVID. And then already this year, for the fall of, I said that backwards, fall of 20, year that we just, that we're in, we had March to August of COVID that complicated our travel and complicated every aspect of recruitment. And now we've lost the first quarter already of a news cycle due to COVID. The organizations that produce and deliver the college fairs across the nation have shut those down. There haven't been. There's just been a very, very small fraction of the type of engagements where all colleges and universities meet students and begin the recruiting processes. And so we've been greatly limited, especially at Judson, because we are a very high touch kind of recruitment place. I mean, what we sell is our very personal relationships with students. And so having to do all that by text and telephone misses the best of who we are and what we seek to accomplish. So those issues have been made this problem even worse in our 177 students that we have this fall.
Right. And so the tuition and fees are part of what pays the bills from those students. And then you get about $1 million a year from the cooperative program through the Alabama Baptist State Convention. And then before now, did you receive donations at this level at all, or?
Well, yes. So several pieces of that. Yes, our tuition and fees from students obviously are a big part of what we do, what we are in our revenue budget. We are very affordable for a private institution at $18,000 annually on tuition. Excuse me, $17,200.
Yeah, close enough. Close enough. That works.
One of those numbers I shouldn't round up.
If they want to throw in the other right, it's helpful.
Right, very affordable for private education and for the quality that we offer. And then we are very dedicated to the Alabama Baptist Convention for its generous support to us. As you mentioned, approximately $1 million a year, a little over, is contributed through the cooperative program. I've only had one opportunity to be in a convention since becoming president, and one of the first things I said was, if you want to help Judson College, lead your churches to give to the cooperative program. and that is the most appropriate way, and we're very grateful to Dr. Rick Lance and his leadership of the convention and of the conventions through the church's support of the college. The next big piece of income would be earnings from our endowment. We do have a significant endowment at a total of almost 17 million between two pieces, the piece of that our trustees control and the piece of that other trusts officers hold in our behalf. Those are restricted to scholarship issues and provide an important piece of the revenue puzzle. And then, yes, generous donations, excuse me, from our alumni and supporters of the school. We would normally receive between $600,000 and $800,000 a year in support from our donors, from our supporters. So just under 10% of the budget is normally received from donations. So the fact that we're raising $500,000 in a month, yes, that exceeds what we would normally do. I'd have to look back. I think we were at $250,000 in December last year. It was a very good December last year. But normally between 5 to 700,000 is a very typical year of donations from our alumni and our supporters who give to the annual operation of the college.
Do you anticipate this current donation, the extra donations happening right now? Do you anticipate those being on top of what you normally would receive?
No, that's inclusive of that now. We had already begun receiving funds in December before we announced this initiative, this push. Those funds are included in the $519,000 we've received. And so that, just to be very forthright with you, that is one of the challenges that we know we face. We recognize that these are our cash obligations this year, and in this economic cycle that we're in, both at the college and in the economy as a whole, we've got to sustain this level of giving. And so there's not only the immediate need, but as we move forward and work these issues, there's got to be additional, we've got to sustain a very large support from our donors, and we'll be having conversations with them about that and about their abilities and willingness to assist in that regard.
Right. And just to clarify too, you mentioned the endowments. The two parts make up the 17 million, but those are restricted. Can you say a little bit more about what that means?
Absolutely. We're very blessed to have almost $9 million in. You would think that was a number I would know without looking it up. Actually, $9,800,000 in restricted gifts, restricted endowments that are controlled by our trustees. Those are a combination of gift instruments that dedicated supporters have given through the years, predominantly, almost exclusively in the form of funds for scholarships. And so as such, they are restricted to that. And we have a moral and legal obligation to to maintain the interests of the donors, not to frustrate the donors' intent. And so we couldn't invade that corpus if we wanted to. The Attorney General's office works closely with all trusts, whether it's in a situation like this or in a private estate kind of matter. To govern the laws about those, and so those $9.8 million are restricted. And then there's another piece of that over $6.5 million that are trusts and beneficial funds held by others. And so instead of a donor giving us funds, giving the college funds and saying, I want this endowed in perpetuity, they've gone to the Baptist Foundation. They've gone to other trust agents and said, here's a gift. I want you to maintain it and give the proceeds in perpetuity to Judson. And so, but again, they would be restricted as well towards scholarship issues.
So some great scholarship opportunities out there that maybe could be used as well, right? That would be,
Absolutely, yes.
that would be good. Okay, well, that helps explain that. I know that can be confusing sometimes when people see numbers on a book and don't understand why those can't be dipped into.
To say it in an accounting phrase, we're asset rich and cash poor. Right now, we don't have a solvency problem. We are paying all of our bills on time. We don't have a solvency problem. We have a liquidity problem. And that's just as real and must be addressed.
Well, and as you mentioned, the assets you have are aging quite nicely too. So you have lots of repairs to keep up and things like that as well. So
correct.
They're kind of costly assets as well in that sense. Goodness. And you said the annual operating budget of Judson, let me repeat that, was around 9 million. Is that accurate?
Yes, a little less than 9, 8.8. Okay. We've been reducing it each year in my time here to try to continue to contain growth. Things expand, and one of the hardest things we do in higher education is stop things. It's bad stuff, but we've had to address our expense budget as well as try to expand our revenue budget.
What does that look like going into 2021 with all that's happening right now?
Yeah, I'm very confident with these numbers that we're getting now that we're going to have a normal semester. We had prudence dictated that we kind of played out several scenarios on how we might proceed. And it's hard to communicate all of those. People hear potential closing and they think that the sheriff's going to padlock the doors, immediately. Well, we have our obligations under regional accreditation to work with our students, to teach out graduates, to engage in facilitating students, finding other. Thank you. I just had a donor walk in and hand us a check.
Hey, live and in person. I love it.
Right.
We didn't plan that either.
No.
That's fantastic.
But I did lose my train of thought. We were talking about
just how you're going to move in.
Moving into the new year. Yes. And so at the very, very least, we had several paths forward to finish our current graduates. That was the most pressing of our many pressing needs, was to do right by our graduates and have them make sure they finished in April on time, in April 30, and in the process begin working with students and transferring and finding schools, et cetera, et cetera. That was kind of one extreme, if you will. The other extreme, well, the other's not an extreme. The other one is just to proceed as normal, which is, I'm very optimistic that that's what we will be able to do, that we're reaching the point where we're receiving sufficient funds that we'll just open the semester, we'll be on campus, we won't change our delivery mode, everything will move along as it is. A big part of that is that having the semester buys us the time to complete the Fuller Higher Ed study, which honestly just is work that has to be done. everybody must from time to time examine mission, examine what it's doing, understanding how products shift. You can make the best buggy whip in the world and nobody will buy it anymore. The point being the higher ed study, the Fuller Higher Ed Solutions study that has already begun, will give us time to look at our course offerings, look at our projected student body, understand if there's things we need to shift, et cetera. And so it's our great hope that by moving into the semester, getting the study done, using the results of that study to garner additional interest, that perhaps we can feel comfortable with increased giving levels that will allow us to, again, just continue to move forward slowly but steadily as we reverse some of these trends that we're facing.
Okay, so they've already started the study.
Yes, there's a huge list of data points that go into a study like this. Our administrative staff have been hard at work getting those to the Fuller Solutions. And their agents will be with us on January 5th and 6th. We will begin a process of, excuse me, of designing focus groups with a number of constituencies, convention personnel, pastors and ministers in the state, our student body, our alumni, our donors. Just, there'll be a number of specific focal points in focus groups that seek to help us think through, reframe, recast, refocus our product, not to put it in too base of a terms, but to understand what our business is and how it can be done more effectively. And so that's kind of the hope moving into 2021, that we've secured the resources to have a normal semester. We use that opportunity to reinforce our study, and then we assess how we can take that information and move forward into fall of 21, hopefully.
Okay, so all of the study and all the information report will be hopefully finalized mid-year?
Done very quickly, yes. We normally have our trustee meeting mid-February. We're bumping that to late February, early March, so that we can wrap up that study, and that will then be a significant piece of their dialogue when they return to campus for their next meeting.
That is really fast. Okay, you are moving. That's good. All right. Well, tell us how the students are reacting and responding to all of this.
As you would expect, they are, it's a mixed bag. They want to be at school. They want to be at college. They want to be where they chose to be. And we're very, very excited that is their feeling. We haven't talked about Zeta in all of this. In addition to the crisis of 2008 and the crisis of 2020, we had the crisis of Hurricane Zeta.
Oh, that's right.
And the disruption of some public services, public utilities here in town. We got through the no electricity, but the water boil ban, the boil ban that we were under for about a week to 10 days was one bridge too far, if you will. So our students actually left 2 weeks early, from the normal semester, and the night that we announced that they were going home for the semester after the evening meal, there was weeping and wailing and hugging and crying and all of the things you would expect of students who loved their college and loved being where they are. Since then, we've heard from them. They've called with words of encouragement. They've texted. They've written. There is a great social media expression of their appreciations for Judson. I'm not the one charged with monitoring that. Others are. One student took it upon herself to make videos of and compile them of students saying those things for which they're most thankful about Judson. It's available, and I'll have to get you where that is. I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay.
Can't
But
quote that for you.
how great to see the advocacy coming out of the student
Oh,
population, student
absolutely.
body.
They're very excited. We've had them come by and see us at the house, and just stop by the college. So they're very excited about returning. Obviously, when we announce something like this, it creates a tension point, and everybody immediately goes to what are my options, and should I be considering things? And we know we'll lose a few students who will go ahead and make a transfer decision at the spring semester. A certain amount of that's always going to happen. We never have 100% retention fall to spring. But in the main, our students have been just very, very supportive and helpful and hopeful that we will continue as normal.
Mm. I would guess, and this may not be accurate, but I would guess the seniors and juniors are probably the ones more out there working and sticking
Sure.
with you, and the freshmen and sophomores may be looking.
Correct. Yes. The further along in their studies, the more they need to finish here, because it would duplicate courses, take longer, and they're committed to their school. So, as I said, that's why we started with, we're going to find a way to graduate our seniors.
Right. Understand. Well, Dr. T, you mentioned to me recently that God calls us to a place, but also to a time. And I'd just like for you to share a little bit about your journey with Judson, because you've been there more than once, and then how you see all of this playing out.
Well, thank you. I have been at Judson. I came to Marion 3 times on purpose. And
Okay.
in 1987, Dr. John McCrumman employed me as a religion professor because I had earned an MBA at Samford. After Dr. Potts became president in 90, I moved into the business office, the chief financial office position in 91. Later, the development officer, later the academic officer. We spent a little over a year in the late 90s at Southwest Baptist University in Bolivar, Missouri. We affectionately refer to that as our sabbatical.
Okay.
Because we came back. Dr. Potts asked me to come back and launch a site at Judson site in Selma, which we did. And so I was at Judson 9.5 years twice, beginning in 87. And then in 07, we went to Texas. Ann's dad was there living alone in his last years, and we were very happy that we were able to be there with him, and that the two of them could be close to each other. Had a great work at one of our sister Baptist schools in Texas at Howard Payne University. And then in 19 came back as the 23rd president here at Judson. So people have asked me, why did you return? Did you know this? Those kinds of questions. That's inevitable. Those are fair questions, and I want to make it clear that no one misled me about anything. I knew Judson, knew its situation, knew that it would be challenging financially. Obviously, there were details of that I could only learn once I was, in this role. But again, that's what kind of drove me to the statement I made to you about God calls us to a place, but also to a time. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite Oswald Chambers quotes from my utmost is August 10th, that God places his workers where they can do the most good, and we usually are very incapable of knowing where that is. It's a very true statement. Yeah. And that is not just a point in geography, it's a point in time. God places the resources that he needs, not just in a place, but at a moment in time to accomplish the things that God wants to accomplish. And so we're very honored. I've said this a number of times. I'm very honored to be the one that was asked to walk Judson through this season. I pray that God will make me equal to the challenge that we face as we move forward. To be placed in this role may be the greatest backhanded compliment I've ever received. but we'll just, we take it as it comes. yeah, I don't know what holds the future, but I know who holds the future. Know what the future holds. But we follow Christ, and we just work day by day, because this is where he has us. And so that's what I meant by it's just a place, but it's also a time.
Well, your encouragement, your spirit, and your enthusiasm, optimism, all I know is playing well for Judson. Remind me how old Judson
1838
1838. I couldn't remember the year.
when it was begun by members of Siloam Baptist Church, who, in the 19th century, there were no educational or very few educational opportunities for women. Judson is the 5th oldest women's college in our nation still. And wasn't chartered, is sometimes confused. We received a charter from the Secretary of State in 1841.
Okay.
And then subsequent to that, entered an arrangement with the convention, and have been with the convention ever since. But the school started in 1838. Milo Parker Jewett came from the north and assisted with the founding of our institution.
And Tab Media has a connection with Milo Parker Jewett as well, and with Judson College, in that our original building sits on the corner of your campus.
That's right.
So,
it does indeed. Yes.
So we thank you for taking care of our little piece of history as well.
Absolutely.
Another building you have to take care of, right?
It's due to be painted, so we get right on that.
I think I may need to send a team down, right, and get that done. That could be our extra help. So. Well, Dr. Tu, thank you for helping us understand and just being able to share this great news about the first goal being met and well on the way to the second goal. If you'd like more information, judson.edu, also tabonline.org, and just search for Judson and the latest news will come up. In both places you can find how to give and donate as well. Dr. Tu, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. I appreciate your time, and thank you for the work of the Alabama Baptist.
You're very welcome. And thank you all for listening.